What is going on, guys, and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by today's title, man, we're gonna be talking about Nikola Jokic finally officially becoming NBA MVP. As a Nuggets fan, I've waited for this for a couple months at this point. He's been the clear favorite for quite some time, so it's absolutely amazing to see him finally win it. And yeah, I just want to talk about it, talk about his season, talk about why I really do believe that he is deserving of winning the MVP. I'm talking about a couple main things. One, statistically speaking, a lot of people like to talk about stats, so that's what I'm going to be talking about probably first, and then I'm going to jump into the eye test after that. But man, I'm just so happy. I don't have a script for this video, so it's going to be off the top of my head. So if it's a little unorganized, I apologize. But let's jump into it with the very first statistical argument, and that is that Nikola Jokic had one of the greatest centers in NBA history by a center. He averaged 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists at the center position. That's almost a triple-double. That's greater than LeBron James, who many people said that, LeBron should have won. He would have won it if he wasn't injured. People said Joel Embiid would have won it if he wasn't injured. Joel averaged, I think it was 30 and 11. Don't get me wrong, 30 is nice, 4 more points, 1 more rebound, but he doesn't pass the ball like Jokic. I mean, come on now, your best ability is availability. How are you going to give it to a guy that doesn't play games? Jokic played all 72 games this year, guys. All 72 games. And I actually have a graphic that I made specifically for this video. I actually made it for another video about why the NBA needs to kind of redo what they name the MVP. But I'll make that video sometime over the next month. But for this video, it actually works just as well. So as you can see on screen now, I have 7 players who I personally have heard people argue should be MVP. So obviously we have Jokic, Curry, Chris Paul, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and LeBron James. Now, obviously, speaking out of fandom, Jokic should win. That's personal Nuggets bias. He should win. Speaking as an NBA fan, one thing I value a lot from players, no matter who it is over any sport, is games played and how well do you play over those games as far as consistency, right? Like, if you average 20 points over 5 games, that's awesome. But can you average 20 over 13 games, 14, 15 games, 20 games, 30 games? Obviously, that's just a fraction of the NBA season. That's just an example I brought up, right? So looking at this right here, I highlighted in green every statistical category leader. And the reason I have so many categories for this one is because in my MVP video that I made a couple months ago, one of the comments said that I didn't include defense, and that's a big part of why you should win MVP. So I have a bunch of offensive stats and defensive stats in this chart. So let's go down the list. Games played. Nikola Jokic wins it pretty easily. The only competitor with that is Chris Paul, played 70 games, but Jokic played every single game, didn't miss a single game. Steph Curry won the points category with 32, and that was kind of the big reason why he was getting votes, because he was dropping 32 and carrying this team that was awful and all this stuff. But I mean, he didn't even make the playoffs. I know technically he should have, being an 8th seed, but he's an 8th seed. Come on now. And then you go down the list, right? So Giannis leads that with 11 rebounds per game. Jokic had 10.8. That's a 0.2 difference, guys. I'm not going to sit here and act like he had way more rebounds. It's 0.2. Like, come on now. Assists. James Harden leads that with 10.8 as a guard. Nikola Jokic, let me see, looks like he's 3rd on this list with 8.3 as a center. As a center. Like, that's unheard of. Now, turnovers per game. As expected, Chris Paul leads with just 2.2 turnovers per game. Jokic has the same as Embiid. He has less than Harden. Less than Giannis, less than LeBron, less than Curry. I mean, obviously, I'm sure people are going to try to make the argument that because he's a center, he's not a guard, he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot. His usage percentage, though, is like 29%. I mean, come on now. He theoretically should have a lot more turnovers than he does. Blocks, this is where Embiid really dominates with 1.4. Jokic only has half that. Right, and I can go down the rest of these. Like, these shooting splits, like, the leader for is Giannis with field goal percentage, 56.9%. Jokic has 56%. That's only a 3-point difference. For three-pointers made, Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, averaged 42% this year. Jokic averaged less than 4% less at 38% as a center, guys. Like, come on, man. This dude's dominating. Chris Paul takes the free throw percentage with 93%. He shot lights out from there. Curry had 91. Jokic had 86. I would have liked him to get to like an 89, 90 range, but 86 isn't bad at all. You know, going down to the more advanced statistical field goals, effective field goal percentage, you know, Curry wins that with 65.5%. Excuse me, that's true shooting percentage. Efficient field goal percentage, 60.5%. Jokic is 0.3% less than the greatest shooter of all time. Come on, guys. I mean, true shooting percentage, that's where Curry also leads 65.6%. Jokic, only 0.8 less percent. Come on, guys. And this is where it gets really interesting. Here's the advanced metrics that a lot of people like to ignore. There's a crowd like me who loves these advanced stats because I think some of the other stats I named are basic. Obviously, they matter for sure. But this is where like the nitty-gritty stuff comes into play. Player efficiency rating. Jokic is first in the NBA with 31.36. That's top 10 in NBA history. NBA history, guys. Top 10. I'm pretty sure it's like 7th or 8th on that list. Top 10. Okay. Win shares. I haven't brought this one up in any videos. And I actually have the definition for you, just so people don't think that I'm making this up. Win shares is a player statistic which attempts to divvy up credit for team success to the individuals on the team. Basically what that's saying, guys, is how many wins are you responsible for? Okay? Let's look at these numbers. Jokic, 15.6 wins he's responsible for, okay? The next closest is Giannis with 10.2. So, Jokic by himself is responsible for 4 more wins. Everyone loves to bring up this argument of, if you take this guy off his team, how good are they? I mean, you guys can do the math in the comment section. Better yet, let me get out my calculator for you, just so I can prove this point even more. 15 divided by 72 games. That's 20% of the season, guys. 20%. So, Jokic is responsible for winning 20% of games played. I mean, it's just crazy. And then you go down the list. Offensive win shares. Obviously, we know he's better on offense than he is on defense. 12.2 wins based off of his offense. The next closest, 6.9 from Giannis. That's almost double Giannis. Defensive win shares. I just told you, right? Offense is where he kind of shines. Defense isn't good. He's a bad defender. He's an average defender, right? On Twitter, if you guys are on Twitter, man, you see this all the time. NBA Twitter loves to hate on Jokic's defense. Out of these candidates, he leads them with defensive win shares in 3.4. The next closest is Joel Embiid with 3.2. Actually, it's Giannis with 3.3, then Embiid with 3.2. So all these people talking about how great of a defender Embiid is and how bad Jokic is, let's look at the real stats. Blocks are cool, don't get me wrong. Like I said, Embiid doubles Jokic's blocks. Don't get me wrong, it's nice. Come on now, though. Like, these are the stats that really matter. These are the stats that wins are based off of. Okay? Box plus minus leads these candidates with 11.7. The next closest, Giannis with 8.8. I mean, let's go down the list again. Offensive rating, 130.4. 130.4. The next closest is 124 with Chris Paul. 6.4 better than Chris Paul. Now, obviously, for defensive rating, for those of you that don't know, you want a lower number. So basically on this list, Joel Embiid leads it in 103.5. LeBron is next, right? And then Giannis, and then Jokic. I'm not even upset about that. What I find crazy is that no one criticizes Chris Paul's defense, but they criticize Jokic when he has a better defensive rating. Like, make it make sense, man. It doesn't make sense, right? So I feel like this list of stats does a much better job than my first video. I showed offense, I showed defense, I showed advanced, I showed shooting percentages. Everything, statistically speaking, that I could put in this graph, that could fit on this graph, I did. And as you can tell, Jokic leads in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. 6 of them. And not just does he lead in 6, but he's very close to a lot of these other players. As I mentioned, 0.2 rebounds away from Giannis, right? 2 assists away from a guard as a center. And it's not like it's like 2 and 4 assists. It's 10 assists and 8 assists. Like, these are great numbers, guys. I mean, field goal percentage, Giannis, 0.3 better than him. 0.3. Like, Jokic has been unbelievable statistically speaking this year, guys. And the amount of slander that he's gotten for not being a good defender or, choking in games or just only averaging 26. I saw someone argue the other day that he is an MVP because he only averaged 26 and Curry averaged 32. Come on, guys. Right? And so then the next thing that I thought about was, okay, let's look at standings, right? Because there is that crowd that argues standings every time. Every year we see this. Nikola Jokic led the Denver Nuggets to the 3rd seed in the Western Conference with a 47-25 record. All right? He did that while losing Jamal Murray for the last month, as well as Will Barton. Lost PJ Dozier for the last, I think it was 3 weeks, who's a key guard off the bench. Michael Porter Jr. missed a month at the beginning of the year. Like, I remember we started 1-4, I believe it was, and everyone was like, "Oh, look, Nuggets are fakers. They're not it. They're not good. We're 3rd in the West." Even if you want to make the argument that the Clippers tanked, so we technically should be 4th, we're 4th in the West. That's better than the Warriors, so Curry. Better than LeBron's Lakers. I mean, the Suns, Chris Paul did a great job this past year. So did Coach Monty Williams. Let's give him credit as well. I don't want to only put on Chris Paul. Monty Williams did a great job as well. But, I think a lot of people make it seem like this disparity between Chris Paul's wins with his team and Jokic's is huge. It's a 4-win difference, right? Like, don't get me wrong, those 4 wins matter. As many wins as you can get is amazing. But this idea that Chris Paul elevated the Suns to like 60 wins a year, I feel like people, that's what they think when they think of Chris Paul's impact and all this stuff. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense where for one player, it's like, look at what he's done. But for this player, it's like, oh, well, the Clippers tanked. That's why they're 3rd. It's just not solely on one player. I'll say that, right? Because obviously, I brought up win shares earlier. And win shares, every player has some type of win share, whether it's good or bad, right? But this idea that, like, Jokic didn't do anything to help his team get to the 3rd seed, missing a star player, is ridiculous. Okay? And he did this in the West as well, right? So, Joel Embiid, 76ers, 49-23 in the East. That's 2 more wins than the Nuggets. And we're 3rd in the West. They're 1st in the East. If that doesn't show you the disparity in conferences, I don't know what does. I mean, Giannis, 1 less win than the Joker. The Nets, 1 more win than the Joker. Like, that's Harden right there. I mean, I don't know how you can make that argument at this point, right? And so then the last thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about is the eye test. They're talking about how, Jokic, he doesn't slam in the paint. He doesn't go hard in the paint. He just does little floaters and all this stuff and look at what Steph's doing. It's like, what I've started to notice is NBA fans, especially the large audience of casual fans, loves the highlight reel plays. And don't get me wrong, I love highlights just as much as everyone else. I really do. I love seeing Steph pull up from 3 at half court. I love it. Even though Dame dropped 55 on us the other night, I loved it. It was amazing seeing that shooting display. But this idea that highlights are what makes an MVP an MVP, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And when you combine stats, team success, the eye test, because real NBA fans see how good Jokic is. Like, fans who watch the game and actually study the game, they see how great Jokic is, right? And I'm not taking away from any of these other players on this list. They are all fantastic players. I think they're all MVP caliber players, just not this year, right? I think the idea that Jokic only won because of injuries is ridiculous. As I've shown in this video, statistically, he's been off the charts, right? To say that didn't play a part would be ignorant of me. Do I think it would have been a lot closer had LeBron not gone down and Joel not gone down? Of course. Of course it would. I think it would have been a 3-man race between those 3, and you can throw Steph in there at the end of the year as well. That being said, though, this idea that, it was handed to him because of those injuries, that's ridiculous. It's complete bogus. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, not one bit, right? And outside of this, like I mentioned earlier, he's had one of the most historic seasons in NBA history by a center. He led the league in double doubles, for one, which I know some of you were like, what's so good about double double? I mean, it's just the consistency aspect. It's not like he had several big games and that's why his numbers are inflated. It's like, no, he did this on a nightly basis. He only had a couple bad games I can think of, right? So right now on screen, what I'm going to do is I have all of these screenshots in my phone. I'm talking like 20, 30 plus. Just talking about Jokic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in from the beginning of the year stuff to the end of the year stuff. So obviously, some of like the graphs, they'll change because it's throughout the year. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to just show you all of the historically great things that Jokic has done this year. What I want you guys to do in the comments is make your argument, whether it's for Jokic or another player. And I understand this video is kind of all over the place. I'm really sorry for that. This is something that has been on my mind all year long, and I'm so happy that Jokic finally won it, because the Jokic slander is getting ridiculous. It took ESPN almost an hour to post about it today. Bleacher Report, at this point, they probably posted something, but even an hour in, I didn't see anything. Like, if that was LeBron or Steph and Embiid, that post would have been out immediately, and you know that's the truth. So, make your argument down in the comment section below. Who you think should win MVP and why? Obviously, I do think that the word value needs to be removed from awards because everyone has a different, definition of value, and I will be making another video about that very soon. And I will actually be including this chart in that as well, just because I think this chart shows a lot about value in different places. So I'll definitely be making that video soon, so look out for that one. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And don't forget, Nuggets and 6.